Sa pangarap na maging mapayapa ang ating bansa, ang pangarap nyo ay pangarap ko. Sa pangarap na maging maunlad ang ating bansa, ang pangarap nyo ay pangarap ko. At sa pangarap na maging mas masinang ang kinabukasan natin at ng ating mga anak, ang pangarap nyo ay pangarap ko.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight.
In his first major act as Chief Executive, President Bongbong Marcos has vetoed a bill that would have sought to establish a Bulacan Ecozone.
The bill sponsor, Senator Imee Marcos, can't help but express disappointment over her brother's decision. Mayan Los Baños with the big story.
On his first day on the job, President Bongbong Marcos thumbed down the bill that sought to create the Bulacan Airport City Special Economic Zone and Freeport. In his veto message, Marcos said that while he recognizes the objective of the measure to boost economic growth, he cannot support its provisions that supposedly pose substantial fiscal risks. He pointed out that the bill lacks coherence with existing laws, especially by failing to provide audit provisions for the Commission on Audit. Marcos Jr. said the proposed measure also lacks a master plan setting the boundaries of the economic zone. The Bulacan Ecozone is also located in close proximity to the Clark Special Economic Zone, which Marcos pointed out is against the government's policy on creating such economic zones in strategic locations. The president's sister, Senator Imee Marcos, who is the sponsor of the bill, is sad over her brother's decision.
Trabaho lang yan at walang personalan, walang kapatiran. Sabi nila may intriga daw tungkol kay Mr. Ang, si Gokong Wei, Villar, Ricky Rason. Kung sino man sa kanila ang mag-i-invest, tulungan natin. Kasi sila ang makakapagbigay ng trabaho. Doon ako nanghihinayang. Dahil ang alam natin, tuloy-tuloy nga yung airport kasi may prangkisa na nga.
In a press briefing on Monday, Press Secretary Trixie Angeles said the president fully supports the measure. Angeles said Marcos Jr. only wants to polish the bill and cure its defects so that it will not be questioned by the Supreme Court.
Well, the palace merely says that the law has to be sharpened. We have to make anticipations of possible constitutional challenges on this one. This is the stand of the president. Let's fix this now so that we don't wait for it to be challenged later on.
However, Senator Imee points out that there were audit provisions in the bill contrary to what was written in her brother's veto letter.
Hindi ko naman pwedeng sabihin na perfect yung anumang bill. Pero yung such amendments as to merit the accusation that it's potentially unconstitutional is very puzzling to me.
The senator also insists that the government will not lose revenues in constructing the ecozone.
I pray that there's no chilling effect. Ang akin, talagang alam ng kapatid ko to. Ang kinatatakutan ko, baka hindi naaral ng maigi or may nagagaling-galingan.
However, Senator Imee says she has no plans on meeting with her brother to talk about the measure. She said this issue is best discussed with his economic team. For now, lawmakers are sent back to the drawing board so they can refile the bill. For Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, investors will not be affected by Marcos's decision.
It's really, I think, going back to basics and what really deters investors to come in the Philippines. And again, if you look at all these indicators that are produced comparatively globally, it's the cost of doing business. We are addressing issues that are so removed from the what concerns most the investors.
Reporting for News 5, Mayan Los Baños, we are One News.
Well, President Marcos Jr.'s first act in office, your take?
Well, a lot of people were really surprised by this. Lumabas yung balita. It started spreading on Viber. Actually, I started seeing it and finally vetted by journalists na totoo. people were caught by surprise. They certainly did not expect this to be one of the first things that he would do. But things to clarify ever since then. Iba yung Bulacan Airport project doon sa Bulacan Economic Zone that they were doing. This bill is specific to the economic zone, not necessarily the airport. So they're saying that Tuluyang Airport, certainly Ramon Ang, San Miguel is saying Tuluyan. But there were really big problems here that it seems to me that parang hindi nga nagdaan sa NEDA eh. Though if you look at some of the insights from the communication to the Senate, they're worried about tax incentives. They're talking about environmental problems. Most importantly, also, let's not forget expropriation questions, rules for expropriating land relative to the economic zone. Lots of questions, but the Senate is saying and legislators are saying, mukhang kaya pang ayusin.
Well, I think this act sends a strong message, not just to the business community, but also it could be that public interest may outweigh business gains and personal connections. Remember that it was Senator Imee Marcos who sponsored this bill. So whatever it means, we'll find out. Definitely has put everybody on alert.
Pero dun sa whatever, people are following other angles to that even Senator Imee Marcos pointed out, hindi mo tatanggal yan. The political intrigues as well, people were expecting that one of the surprises here, of course, was that this is San Miguel, Ramon Ang, of course, close to an ally of the Marcoses, the Cuangcos. So this is something that's part of what's expected. It's part of what people will be speculating about. But in the meantime, the communication stands on its own. It looks like the policymakers will treat this as a policy question. And we will see. Even everybody in the Senate on all sides of this are saying...
personalan, sabi Senator Imee Marcos. So, naiintindihan naman yung kapatid niya.
Yeah, that's right. And like we said, everybody seems to be on the same page in saying they will treat this as a policy question. And certainly there's more than enough basis to talk about it on that level.
Well, of course, there are implications to that veto. And with the Bulacan Ecozone temporarily out of the picture, what else is the administration planning to boost economic recovery from the pandemic? To give us the answers, we have a member of the Marcos cabinet joining us live via Zoom. We have Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma. Welcome to the big story, Secretary.
Good evening, Gretchen, and good evening, Robbie. And let me thank you for inviting me to be part of your program tonight.
Magandang gabi po.
Now, first of all, is this good news or bad news for you? As Labor Secretary now, the potential impact of the veto on lost jobs?
Wala pa naman siguro ganun kagad na conclusion, Gretchen, on lost job. And I think the President's veto has a strong basis. And I really think na meron ding mga batayan at hindi naman niya sinasabi na katapusan na noong proposal, kundi ang aking pagkakaunawa, my understanding is that it's just being returned so that the perceived defects can be cured and remedied, and then hopefully there will be a finer version of that vetoed bill and it can come into fruition.
In the meantime po, Secretary Laguesma, when it comes to labor, employment, the welfare of our workers, ano po ang marching order sa inyo ni President Marcos?
Kasama po yung Robbie, yung tagubili na pag-aralan, tignan yung umiiral na programa, yung mga programs in place ng Department of Labor and Employment. If there is a need to recast the budget, reprioritize, gawin po yun. And that exactly would be how we will be proceeding after we have done consultation with the labor groups and the employers group.
In the meantime po, dalawa po ang malaking hamon sa inyo. Una, paramihin ulit ang trabaho. At the same time, yung mga may trabaho, nananawagan naman na taasan ang sweldo. How do we attack these twin problems?
Totoo yan, Robbie at Gretchen. No? Una, yung paglikha, creation ng more jobs and additional employment opportunities. Ayan po ay principal na dapat manggaling sa ating private sector, yung mga namumuhunan, the investors. And therefore, I think the challenge for us is to be able to really show that policies in place will be predictable, consistent, and then there is continuity. And I think it should be aligned yung doon sa trust na there should be ease in doing business, but at the same time, make sure that the benefits derived from such arrangement can cascade to the workers, lalo na yung mga ordinaryong manggagawa, Robbie at Gretchen, na nangangailangan talaga ng tulong o ikangay paggabay sa panahon nito dahil ang pandemya narito pa at alam din ninyo na dumaan din tayo sa mga kalamidad. No? So, ang hamon, pagsubok ay pwede siguro magkaroon ng masasabi natin na kalutasan, kasama po sa pagbabalangkas ng solusyon ang bahagi ng manggagawa at saka namumuhunan.
Speaking of yung ordinaryong manggagawa, Secretary, sabi niyo po, ang plano niyo is to make the DOLE more action-driven, responsible, approachable, and responsive. And over 25 years na po kayo nasa DOLE. Ano po yung babaguhin po ninyo para mas maging responsive and approachable yung department?
Gretchen at Robbie, this morning I had my first flag raising ceremony with employees ng Department of Labor and Employment. And I very intently listened doon sa panunumpa ng lingkod ng bayan. Yung binanggit ni Gretchen, responsive, action-driven, service-oriented, nakapaloob po dun sa panunumpa. At nais ko pong makita na yun ay sana gawin ng mga taga-Department of Labor and Employment. Kasama na rin po ang inyong abang lingkod na aming isa puso, isa diwa at isa buhay. Kasi dapat po sana ang aming pananaw sa aming mga paglilingkuran, yung pong constituencies natin, lalo na po, yung nauulitin ko, yung nabanggit ni Gretchen, yung pong medyo pangkaraniwang manggagawa na kadalasan po ay medyo nangangamba, medyo natatakot, nalalapit sa mga ikangay nanunungkulan sa pamahalaan, simply because parang ang tingin nila, mga yan nasa pedestal. No? Ang akin pong sariling pananaw, dapat po ang aming maging direksyon, kami po ang naglilingkod, hindi po kami ang paglilingkuran. So part of that, Robbie and Gretchen, is that my direction, our task to really go down to the regional areas, the regional offices, touch base with our constituencies in the region so that we will get first-hand how does the Department of Labor and Employment personnel in the region really deliver services? And are they actually comfortable with the kind of services being extended to them? And do their opinions and actually suggestion matter in terms of implementations of programs which are actually designed to benefit the ordinary workers? Kasama dyan yung disadvantaged, yung underemployed, unemployed particularly, and even those employed kasi mayroon din silang mga pangangailangan na dapat matugunan ng Department of Labor and Employment. Pero hindi naman lahat yan kakayanin ng Department of Labor and Employment lamang. Kaya bahagi po nung tagubili ng ating Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, makita yung close coordination and working together ng mga departamento na may kinalaman doon sa kalagayan ng mga manggagawa, namumuhunan at sa ating pong general public.
Sino mag-thank you? Sino sa kanila?
Maraming salamat po, Department of Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma.
Join us in the conversation. Our big question tonight: what should we expect in the first 100 days of the Marcos Jr. administration? Share your thoughts on our Facebook and YouTube live stream or post a tweet with the hashtag #TheBigStory. We will be reading some of your comments later on in the program.
Dito siya nakatayo. Kaliwa.
More big stories tonight. President Bongbong Marcos leads the change of command ceremony of the Presidential Security Group. And the Education Department officially welcomes its new chief, Vice President Sara Duterte. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
System that prepared coming generations for more and better jobs. There is hope for a comeback. Vice President and soon-to-be Secretary of Education, Sara Duterte Carpio, will fit that mission to a T. My father built more and better roads, produced more rice than all administrations before his. President Rodrigo Roa Duterte built more and better than all the administrations succeeding my father's. Much has been built, and so well, that the economic dogma of dispersing industry to develop the least likely places has been upturned. Development was brought to them. Investors are now setting up industries along the promising routes built. And yet, the potential of this country is not exhausted. Following these giant steps, we will continue to build. I will complete on schedule the projects that have been started. I'm not interested in taking credit. I want to build on success that's already happening. We will be presenting the public with a
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. Here's a recap of what we know about Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s first weekend as president. First, he vetoed House Bill 7575, which eyes to create the Bulacan Airport City Special Ecozone. He also gave the go signal to extend the free bus ride along EDSA Carousel until December. Also in transportation, he approved the free train rides for students, and that's for all LRT, MRT, and PNR lines. And finally, he celebrated his mother's 93rd birthday in Malacanang. Now, earlier today, Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles addressed concerns that the Marcos family will once again hold lavish parties in Malacanang. Let's listen to what she had to say regarding the matter.
We acknowledge those concerns. There's no policy yet in place, and that's all that we can really say about it. It was a family affair, and so I don't know if a policy will be born out of this one, but we certainly will note that observation. We assure you that the president will adhere to law, and so that is the presumption. The president has made no directive in excess of anything that is written in the law.
Pero yun na natin, 93rd, hindi 93rd with
93rd.
RD.
But this is, in a way, this is just one of the first things that are inevitable. I think President Marcos himself and the entire family knew that coming into this presidency, there would be these moments that, on the one hand, remind people, as Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles herself acknowledged, that people will be reminded of those days during the time of the Marcos dictatorship, nung talagang hawak nilang Malacanang. But they're saying, you know, we'll have to see. But I think the more important thing is, sunod-sunod pa yung mga events where that will keep coming up. Diba? September, let's remember, September is going to be the anniversary of martial law. And there will be many anniversaries, many occasions that at every turn they will constantly be asked about, you know, the past, and will that past necessarily dictate how will they behave in this current term of President Marcos.
I wonder what you think about them not, you know, providing any comment or details or photos even of that birthday party. Do we have a right to know if it's a personal thing?
As they said, at the end of the day, it is a private occasion, as they said, but par for the course for any administration, for any government, there will be, if you take that position, people also have a right to ask, yes, but are you spending public funds? Are you spending it in a public space? And so on. So far, they're saying, look, it was a private event. They have to stay consistent with that.
Sabi naman nila, nagdala daw ng pagkain yung mga bisita. Oo, baka may ano doon, KKB. Diba?
We will see. In the meantime, for the more official things that they said, President Bongbong Marcos did lead the change of command ceremony for the Presidential Security Group at the PSG Grandstand in Malacanang. President Marcos handed over the unit symbol to the new PSG chief, former spokesperson Colonel Ramon Zagala. To give us updates on the president's latest activities, Marlene Alcaide joins us live from Mandaluyong. Marlene.
Yes, Robbie, President Marcos arrived a few minutes ahead of the scheduled ceremony at the PSG grandstand this afternoon to attend the Presidential Security Group's change of command. Colonel Ramon Zagala formally assumed office and replaced Brigadier General Randolph Cabangbang. Marcos thanked Zagala for accepting the challenge to be the next chief of PSG. And Marcos said the mission of the Presidential Security Group goes beyond the stated mission of protecting the First Family and foreign dignitaries who visit the country, but also keeping safe the whole institution. Zagala, for his part, said protecting the President and the First Family would also mean protecting the country. Zagala said he will provide regular training for the PSG as well as personal welfare and stakeholder engagement. Robbie?
Maraming salamat, Marlene Alcaide. Right after the break, the Education Department welcomes Vice President and Education Secretary Sara Duterte. Stay with us here on One News.
Was loud and clear with the message to serve our motherland. And this message has been reiterated in my oath to consecrate myself to the service of the nation. The days ahead may be full of challenges that call for us to be more united as a nation. But let me reiterate this. We can never go wrong if we are a people dedicated to honoring the will of God, to serving our country and our fellow men, and protecting the integrity of our families and the future of our children. If you all take a moment to listen to the call to serve and decide to heed the call, in the same way that many are already devoting their lives as hardworking farmers and fisherfolk that ensure that there is food on our tables, dedicated health workers who help the sick, brave soldiers who fight for our country, honest and fair entrepreneurs who support our economy, patient school teachers that guide our children. I believe the country will be heading towards a future of hope, security, strength, stability, and progress. Magkasama sana tayong bumangon bawat araw, kasabay ang nag-aalab na pangako sa ating mga puso.
With the success of the Toyota Gazoo racing Vios Cup last year, Toyota Motor Philippines' One Make series is back on track as it kicked off its 2022 season on Saturday at the Clark International Speedway in Pampanga. Like the previous seasons, the 2022 series will see racers divided into 3 classes. Promotional class for newcomers, sporting class for seasoned drivers, and the super sporting class. But unlike last season, Toyota has opened the event for spectators to come by and watch the races.
This year we prepared for the comeback of our live audiences because of course nothing beats the excitement, the energy of having live audience here at the speedways.
This year, the Vios Cup will also host the national finals of the Toyota Gazoo Racing GT Cup. This is where the country's best esports racers could get the chance to take their sim racing skills to the real world. But as the competition began over the weekend, all eyes were on the guest celebrities and professional racers who showed off their skills on the racetrack.
I'm very grateful to be participating in this sort of event, especially because it's different to the racing in the UK. The atmosphere is really great.
Every time we come here, we have different experiences, and every time we come here, it's so much fun working with so many crazy good racers.
With Race 2, like one of the Toyota Vios Cup, wrapped up, officials and racers believe that there is still more to come in the season and that fans can expect races to get more competitive in the next legs.
So they can expect, of course, more racing action and more fun and excitement. But most of all, we can see the competitive spirit of our racers.
For News 5, Marty Bautista, We Are One News.
Former Education Secretary Leonor Briones has officially passed the torch to Vice President Sara Duterte today. But Duterte says Briones will continue working for the department, at least for now.
For the details on that, Marian Enriquez is reporting to us live from Mandaluyong. Marian, how did the turnover event go?
The ceremonial turnover event was filled with music, and even former Education Secretary Leonor Briones sang with the choir to welcome the new Education Chief, Vice President Sara Duterte. Duterte lauded Briones and the department officials, underscoring their bold but necessary measures to provide Filipino children accessible and quality education. VP Sara said she will assume as the Education Chief with the reminder that they shall continue to find ways to improve basic education in terms of access, equity, quality, resilience, and governance to produce learners who can achieve their full potential as individuals who are knowledgeable and determined to achieve their dreams. Recall that VP Sara said among the things they will focus on aside from the 2023 budget is to review the K-12 program as instructed by President Bongbong Marcos. And she also said that they are targeting the full implementation of face-to-face classes by August. VP Sara also confirmed that former Secretary Leonor Briones has agreed to stay as DepEd consultant. VP Sara hopes to come up with appropriate actions and solutions for private schools that are suffering from losses, facing closure, and some even have already shut down due to the pandemic. Duterte said that there is an urgent need to build back stronger and better. She is also asking for support from the education stakeholders to resolve issues and concerns that may adversely impact the education sector. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Marian Enriquez, reporting live from Mandaluyong. Well, the Education Department, it's good to get the turnover ceremonies done and get to work right away.
Still a few more appointments that we're still waiting for. Department of Health, Department of Environment, Natural Resources. Pero mukhang nabubuo na yung official family ni President Marcos.
Sabi nga nila, kaya wala pa raw kasi kailangan dumaan sa butas ng karayom, sabi ni Press Secretary kanina.
We'll be following that in the coming days. Hopefully, we'll have more for you in terms of the cabinet formation. In the meantime, we will continue to follow the first official acts of President Marcos. And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analysis. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. Ako po si Gretchen Ho. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.